Welcome to the Fit Bridge, a podcast connecting you to conversations that help bridge you to success within the health and fitness industry. Hi, friends. Welcome to the Fit Bridge podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, RC Hahn. I'm a little wacky, so be prepared for that. If you're a repeat listener, you already know what's up. Either way, I'm grateful you're here. In today's conversation, I speak with Sean Ofeldt. He's the founder and CEO of Transition Overwatch, also former Navy SEAL, and co-founder and founder of multiple other businesses. So you know that this conversation today is unique and jam-packed with wisdom and unique perspectives and applications that you can apply to your life. We chat a lot around what Transition Overwatch is early on in the conversation and the impactful role that they're playing in military transitions and how they're tapping into the health and fitness space. But I also dive into what it's like to be such a serial entrepreneur and to found and create all of these companies and the unconventional approaches that he uses and how to kind of navigate through all of the naysayers and people in his life that have definitely called him crazy. He validates that you got to be a little bit crazy to take on so many ambitions, but I love his message. It's hope-filled. It's jam-packed with applications that you can use on how to navigate and pivot through life and really overcome any obstacles that you're faced with and how to continue down your path, finding your why, finding your purpose-filled career and passion in life in general. I took so much from this episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy that you're here. Let's get started. Good morning, Sean. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and be a guest here on the Fit Bridge podcast today. You're doing some really exciting stuff in the space. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about that and enlightening our guest. I want to start off by asking the question to clarify. In your words, what is Transition Overwatch? Why did you create this organization? And then furthermore, why and how did you get tapped into the health and fitness space?
Excellent. No, well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, RC. So Transition Overwatch, we really set out to look at military transition and do it different. There's a lot of conventional thinking around transition, and we just saw the same thing being played over and over and over again. So we looked at everything that was available, took a very innovative approach to try and brainstorm and pull different ideas together. And we developed what we call the unconventional apprenticeship. And it's essentially a program that helps military members transition to meaningful careers, provides them the training, the upskilling, and it makes it simple for the employer. It's turnkey. So it's kind of a plug and play solution. It's a win-win for both the employer and the military member. From a why standpoint, I touched on it a bit, just the conventional way of thinking. For many years, I kind of stayed away from transition or trying to make an impact in this space, simply because it was just a bunch of recycled ideas. So it was, kind of sugar coated or packaged up in a new way. And if we were going to do anything, I wanted to make sure that it actually could make an impact. And it took a lot of trial and error. It took a lot of thinking and just really asking questions to different individuals, groups, organizations out there. Is this possible? And after several years of asking those questions, we figured out that it is, and we said, let's do it. And have been running with it since.
Yeah. Well, thank you for creating that one. Thank you for your service. I know you're a Navy veteran, so thank you for that. And thank you for creating this pathway. And within that pathway, you've provided a whole bunch of badass employees within the health and fitness space. So thank you for that as well. I know we're going to dive really heavy into transitioning, adapting, change, because that resonates with everyone, very heavy within that space of the military, but change is inevitable, right? We're all going to change at some point. I do want to ask, kind of your personal journey of transitioning into that civilian life. I'm sure that was a massive adjustment. Can you walk us through maybe some struggles that came with that, some stories that you think of off the top of mind and what that process was like and what you took from it?
Absolutely. So I think it's first, we should just simply say that transition sucks. It's horrible.
Say it how it is, my man. I mean,
it's not it's not comfortable. It takes you away from what you know. And no one really likes to do it. I would argue that for most military members, transition is probably the toughest thing that they'll do in their military career. And they won't know that until after the fact, until they've transitioned out and have struggled and look back and realize, wow, that was difficult. What's really unique, I think, for military members is it's a complete transition from everything that you know. So your purpose, your team, your life, your day to day, your structure, all of that changes really inside of a day. You go from being in the military one day to not being in the next day. Um, and it's the first time in a military member's career where nobody in their chain of command, nobody above them, has actually gone through that process. Typically, it is the case. There's a few instances where that's different, but usually nobody can really guide you. There's no mentor to say this is what it looks like and this is what you should expect. Um, when I transitioned out, I jumped directly into starting a business and running with it, and kind of just head down and just kind of used everything that I gained during the military and prior to make that a successful run. I think the biggest challenges are one, maybe being a little too aggressive, and realizing that you're by yourself. And when you're in the military, you've got a team or some type of team that surrounds you. When you get out, you're pretty much left alone. And again, that military team just keeps moving. So that was a big struggle. And then I think there's a lot of really well-intentioned support out there. And I would say it's only increased over the last decade and a half. That's really important and serves a lot of different purposes. But there's a lot of it. And it's really, really difficult to navigate through all of that. And a lot of it becomes noise. And it's not good noise, not bad noise. It's just noise. And you're really trying to figure out where do I focus my attention? What should I be doing versus what I am doing? And those are, I think that's some of the biggest challenge. And then you look at, finding a job and getting into a career path and figuring out, how you're going to put food on the table and all these things that you didn't have to think about when you were in the military because it was just sort of there. You're now facing all at the same time, which really creates that challenge point. From a transition standpoint, I think you have to be open and accepting of the possibility of failure. And I think that's important because you kind of have that mentality in the military of, there is no such thing as failure. We'll figure it out. We'll get through it. Unfortunately, you see a lot of military members failing at transition. And that's definitely something that kind of keeps my team and I just cranking every single day because it shouldn't be that way.
Mm-hmm. I want to tap a little bit. You spoke about, these unconventional methods and that market of transitioning being available, but almost oversaturated and all of the noise. How would you say Transition Overwatch is that unconventional approach? What are you guys doing differently that allows you guys to succeed in that space?
So almost everyone out there is trying to translate your skills, right? They're looking and saying, okay, this is what you did in the military, and therefore we should translate that to equal this on the workforce side. The problem is that it doesn't work. And if it did work, we probably wouldn't be here having this conversation. Military members are transitioning out for various different reasons. Some do not have a skill set that easily translates to the civilian workforce. Others have spent 20 years in that career field and don't want to continue in that career path. And they want to do something different and they want to try something new. The problem is for all of those individuals, there's no clear path to it. No clear path to actually connecting the dots all the way to getting hired by an employer, being upskilled and trained and developed and launched into that career. So our focus was very much set on, can we remove all of that and say, it doesn't matter what you've done in the military. The fact that you've served in the military, you bring a level of, the civilian workforce calls it soft skills, right? You bring a level of soft skills to the table that simply no company, no college, no high school, right, can develop. It's something that's forged and honed while you're in the military. That's sought after, highly sought after in the professional world. It's just, again, when you're trying to translate skills, you really bypass the soft side of it because there's so much focus on the hard. So we really looked at uh, how can we create a pathway from active duty military or active duty military service directly into a high growth career field, and what would that look like? And we've pulled together all the different programs, developed curriculum, developed training, and really have worked with forward-thinking employers to say, let's look at you as an individual. Let's look at the fact that you do bring those soft skills and that experience that simply can't be developed into the workforce, and then train you to be effective and really transform you to be what that employer needs you to be. Which is, if you think about it, it's exactly what the military does when you join. They take a civilian who has no military experience, no military training, and they transform you into exactly what they need for you to do in the military.
It's kind of like a reversing the process then, and then you go back in the opposite direction and mold
That
them perfectly into that niche and what it is that they want to do in that next chapter. You're mentioning, soft skills. In my personal opinion, obviously, I can't speak from having had transition, but just from those skill sets and, all the friends and colleagues I know that have served, I feel like a lot of those soft skills are very applicable and welcoming within the health and fitness space. I think of things like, teamwork, community, physical work as well, that they might kind of have a lot of parallels. Would you say that you are seeing a lot of individuals that are within your program gravitating towards those health and fitness positions because they find those to be a kind of fun, enjoyable space to use a lot of these skills that they have?
Absolutely. And the one thing that goes hand in hand, I think, with the fitness industry and the military is just the core and the focus on fitness. You're always moving. You're always, honing yourself professionally, physically when you're in the military. So it's a natural bridge into that career field. What we found early on is that's a very sort of haphazard approach, right? There was no clear path to say, okay, I'm interested in the fitness industry. How do I launch a career that's successful in that space? So we do see a lot of interest of military members that want to launch into that, and really being able to paint that whole picture. And that's the one thing that we do with all of our programs is we look at it and we say, okay, we know that you likely don't understand and don't have a clear guide as far as what this looks like on the outside. So we want to give you all that information to help you make that educated decision. Again, if you look at what the military does when they're in their recruiting process, they do the exact same thing. Come join, the Army, come join the Navy, right? And then here are all the job career paths that you can go down, and here's all the interesting stuff about them. So it works. It's already worked for that individual to figure out what they want to do in the military. And now we're really flipping that and saying, okay, you've got an interest in fitness. That's great. Does this make sense to make this a career? Or is what you think is what you think of the fitness industry not actually in line with what it really is? And that's a lot of what our programs do, is really help create that connection, help get that understanding. And then if it is a good fit, completely launch them into it.
Yeah, I love that. Can you just maximize this to the next level? Because I feel like everyone and any individual needs to have that insight. How many times have people got into jobs or positions or adjusted something in their life unknowingly thinking that, oh, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'll do next. Or I want to elevate my career, so I'll go into this department. And if anyone would have had kind of that backside and deeper discovery into what that position really entails, I think we could create a lot more happiness within our transitions and placements, knowing exactly what we're getting into. I want to ask you, being kind of this master and adapting and navigating gracefully and helping others navigate, what is maybe like the three or however many frequent pain points you see with individuals transitioning in any dimension, right? Let's just keep it general change. We'll just go change. People are changing. What are those barriers or pain points you see? And then could you provide some solutions and ways to gracefully navigate and adapt and adjust to those changes that are happening in lives?
Yeah. So the biggest barriers, I would say, the first is trying to do too much, right? Trying to make a decision with too much impact. Break it down, keep it simple. Yes, transition is a pivotal point. I always look back at my life and I think of all the major decisions. And then I realized that it's not the major decisions that truly had the impact. It was the small decisions that were made that really didn't feel like they were a big decision at the time. Um, if we've learned kind of anything over the last 2.5 years is remain adaptable, be willing to be uncomfortable. And I think, uncomfort is a very powerful motivator, right? Keeping you in an uncomfortable position really makes you think clear and work more effectively. Um, the other challenge I would say is having that perfect plan. So anyone and I'll kind of jump back to the military, but anyone that's in the military understands that you can plan and you can plan the most perfect operation. The reality is 2 minutes into it, it's likely going to completely change. And what do you fall back to? What is that fallback? And how do you continue to operate and be successful even when your plan has completely fallen apart? So again, not putting too much emphasis on having that perfect plan, trying to make that big decision, and really just break it down into the smaller ones.
So you're saying that sometimes things don't go as planned? Because I think that's a good thing to resonate with everyone, because I know I can relate to that. You're just like, oh, Murphy's Law. Okay, stuff's just going to go wrong. How do we pivot through? But I think that's important to highlight, because that does so much or so frequently kind of just paralyze us. We had this plan and this trajectory and this course, and this is exactly how something is going to go. And the reality is that in any situation, whether it be your relationship or your career or your drive to the grocery store or anything, obstacles are going to be thrown in, and being okay with that and understanding that almost a part of the plan is that there's going to have to be a new plan at some point. And it is always being open-minded and adapting and not becoming so frustrated that, oh, well, this didn't go to plan. Like, screw it. I'm over it. I wasn't meant to do this. Like, maybe we are, maybe we were. It's just, let's figure it out. Let's troubleshoot and let's keep on going. Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for saying that. Other wisdom nuggets, pain points, solutions you have. Keep it rolling. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm taking my notes.
So I would say focus on what you can control. So many people try to control too many things. They put too much focus on the things for which they have absolutely no control on. And not that they're not important, but if you can't control it, don't waste your time thinking about it nonstop. So, again, focus on what you can control that, and then hope, plan for the outcome that you want. The other big thing is do not, and especially through transition, don't take yourself too serious. I think we see it a lot with military members transitioning, just the imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough. There's people out here that have spent 4 years doing this. How am I going to be able to jump into this? And the reality is we're all human, right? And everyone's got different experiences. And be able to laugh at yourself, be able to see sort of humor even in the challenge, and know that everyone's thinking that, right? Everyone to some extent has that going on in their head. So,
hey man, imposter syndrome is so real, and I feel like that's a big blocker for your opportunities and your potential in life.
Absolutely.
Is the things we tell ourselves in our head are worse than anything that anyone's ever said to us, right? That internal dialogue. And like you mentioned, you walk into a room and you're like, oh God, I'm nervous. Everyone else is as well. Like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Everyone else is probably freaking out inside their minds too. And probably on the contrary, looking at you and be like, oh, wow, that person has more experience than me. And you're looking at them like they have more experience. And in reality, neither one of you do. And we're all just trying to figure it out. Like, our experiences are different and unique. So I think that's a good thing to highlight, is that imposter syndrome will just squash any of your potential. Have those affirmations. Do you have some affirmations that you enjoy that you repeat or share with those who are
Not
maybe struggling with imposter syndrome or just anything in general? Is there something Sean says when he wakes up? Do you wake up in the morning and you're just like, I am a badass? Or like, what is, what was some internal positive dialogue that you frequent in your mind?
I don't, but I do take time to just be mindful. Even if it's a few minutes every morning, just kind of sit there and just be. I think is the easiest thing. I found that both in my military career and then post transition, breathing and a little bit. I kind of, it's scary sometimes when you think about meditation and everything that's out there, and it seems almost unattainable in some instance. And again, I think it's that imposter syndrome, right? You're not going to do it right. You're not going to be a good, you're not going to be able to meditate properly. You're not going to breathe right. The reality is just get out there and do it. And yeah, so I don't necessarily have any affirmations that I kind of utilize, but definitely, take the time to just breathe and clear the mind.
Yeah, nothing happens if nothing happens, right? You don't have to be good to start, but you got to start to be great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen there. Well, I recommend the waking up. I'm a badass. I'm a fan of that.
Love it. It's awesome.
Oh, great. Well, I want to tap on your 3 words that you've selected for the FIBR Foundations moment. These 3 words are what you find to be pillars of success that will help, connect individuals to that next level of their career and their personal development. I'm really interested to hear why you selected these 3 words. So you've gone with resolute, ownership, and whoop. Please, the mic is yours, Sean. Take us through resolute, ownership, and whoop.
Yeah. So starting with resolute, I think it's purposeful, right? Be purposeful in your actions, purposeful in what you do. And even if you're doing something that doesn't make sense and you're not necessarily, maybe people are questioning, why are you doing this? If it's tied to purpose, if it's tied to where you want to go and you understand that that's the path to get there, just stay resolute in that mindset. There's a lot of people out there that are going to tell you that's never going to work. You can't do that. And it's because they don't want to do it or they've never
How many
tried to
times
do
have
it,
you
or they're
been called
afraid
crazy?
Pretty often.
Is that your new morning affirmation? You just embrace it and I am crazy. Yes, like crazy is a good thing. I want to stop you there. I do want to talk about that because as an entrepreneur, right, you started something up, you're running with it. You're speaking on how people probably called you crazy and were like, this isn't going to work or it already exists. Why would you create something that's already out there in abundance? How does one overcome those naysayers? What was that point when you were just like, screw it, I'm going to do this anyways, right? I'm going to be unconventional. We're going to think outside the box. How does one take these crazy ideas and push them into implementation when you've got all the things like imposter syndrome and all this other stuff going on? What would you recommend for those out there that are being told they're crazy and they have ideas and they just need to say, screw it?
Yeah. So going back to that word resolute real quick, right? I think that's a key piece of it is, do you understand where you're going? Even if other people don't see it, do you understand where you're going and what's needed to get there? The other part is you do have to be a little crazy, right? I mean, it's super uncomfortable to launch anything, whether it's a business, a new career, you name it. It's very, very uncomfortable. So, embrace being uncomfortable. Military says, be comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? And I think just quiet, right? Quiet all those other voices. They're there. They're always going to be there. I mean, if social media has taught us anything, right? There's always going to be people that are telling us we're wrong. We don't know what we're doing. We're crazy, right? The problem is if you let that consume you, you're never going to get past that point. You're never going to push through what that challenge is. Again, whether you're transitioning, you're starting a business, you're going into that. But having that clarity, I think, of purpose is probably one of the biggest keys, and knowing that there's a future state that has to be created and that you and your team are going to create that. And also make sure that it's relevant, right? So the worst thing that you could do is be running with an idea for which you've convinced yourself is absolutely the right idea. Be open to that feedback, gain that feedback early, and adapt. Where we started 3 years ago with Transition Overwatch is very far from what we're doing right now as it relates to the actual end product or the end service that's being offered. And it's because we didn't build it in a vacuum. We didn't wait till it was perfect. We put it together, we got it out there, we got feedback, and we kept iterating on it. And all the while, when people were saying, this isn't going to work, doesn't make sense, we saw the greater picture. And we knew that that's the goal, right? Right now, we're just getting to that point. I think, coming back to that word resolute, right? That's one of the key pieces to any kind of launch. It's just being focused on that purpose. And it's also tied to military members at transition. When you're in the military, you've got your purpose. It's super clear. I think one of the biggest struggles post-transition is, what's your purpose now? What are you doing? Where are you going? And that's easier to pinpoint with the military, but I think it exists in everyone's life, right? Whenever you transition into something new, is that aligned with a better version of yourself? Right. Yeah, exactly. Why are you getting up every morning? Yeah.
Right. To find your purpose and know your why and kind of revolve everything around that, right? Does it tie back to it? And it sounds like you also brought to surface again the adapting when the plan goes off, right? You mentioned that what you envisioned and what you started and where it is now is drastically different, but that's good because you pivoted
Absolutely.
along the way, but you kept the overarching bird's eye view of what we're creating, what this is, the why behind it, and then navigated throughout. So awesome. Awesome. Let's go into ownership. Talk to us about ownership and why it's a pillar for success.
So I think, and I've seen this firsthand, very few people are willing to step up to the plate and say, I did it, I was wrong, I'm going to fix it. I don't know why it's such a challenging thing. I saw it firsthand, in the business world, where people are always looking to point the finger at somebody else or something else, right? I couldn't do it because of this, or I couldn't do it because of that. And what I learned, both in the military, but then outside of the military as well, is the number of people that are willing to stand up and actually own something is very, very small. And when you transition or when you go into anything new and you own whatever it is, good or bad, it's amazing the feedback you get from those individuals, because they're taken by surprise. They don't know what to do. When somebody's, if you're, let's say you get hired into an organization and you're briefing higher up executives, and there's problems, and you may not know what the problem is, right? You're trying to figure that out. But if everyone else is around you is pointing fingers, oh, it was this team or that team, or we didn't get this in time, or we didn't get that in time. From an executive standpoint, that looks like a bunch of excuses, and it could be real, right? This could be real reasons, but they look like excuses. What executives aren't used to hearing, and I would argue any management level individual in an organization, they're not used to hearing, I failed. I did that. That's my fault. I take ownership for it. I'm going to figure out what the problem was, even if I can't explain it right now, and I'm going to fix it. And it's almost like dropping a mic, right? And I would encourage everybody to take ownership, both professionally and personally, in what they do and your actions, and good or bad. I think it's critical.
Yeah, I think that will pull someone's character out, right? And create that trust and integrity of who you are as a person. Like, yes, the excuse might be, oh, well, the shipment didn't arrive on time because of, processing orders, right, or behind. Okay, well, my fault, right? I should have known that. I'm aware of the climate of processing right now, and I should have ordered that 3 weeks earlier. I'll figure out how to get it here on time next time, right? Instead of just being like, it didn't arrive, right? That ownership of that, I think, is a huge piece. You're right. In being a strong leader, and whether it's in your personal life or professional life, owning up to these things, saying, hey, I'm sorry, I overreacted. I spoke to you in that way. You didn't deserve that. I'll do better on controlling my emotions next time. Yeah. Try that in an argument next time, people. The person's going to be like, what?
Exactly.
You admitted that you were being a crazy bitch.
It's so
Like,
true.
yeah,
People, you don't know what to do, right? It's like,
yeah,
how do you
yeah.
respond? It was me. I did it. I was wrong.
Right. People
Okay,
be so
well, I
baffled,
can't.
which is sad because, that should be the way that it is. It's an unfortunate reality that shows us that people aren't owning up
Absolutely.
enough. So let's change that. That's our goal. Everyone listening from here on out, a ripple can change the world. Everyone start owning up. So we're not surprised when somebody says those words. It's my own personal mission now. I'll be working on that. I'll be working on my resolute, my ownership. And then how do I work on my whoop? What is whoop? Like all I'm thinking is like, whoop, there it is. Did I get it? Is that why you selected it? Is this about to be a dance party, Sean? Or what?
Absolutely.
Why did you select whoop?
It ties into laugh at yourself, right? Just breathe. Number one, it's kind of more of the definition, but laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself too serious. We as humans, we just have this, unnatural ability to just take ourselves so serious and compound bad situations, right? And I think if you can just stand back and kind of laugh at yourself and just say, wow, I can't believe I just did that. Or that was
the theme of my life. I feel like that should be my tagline slogan of my life.
Right. So yeah. So whoop's a fun word.
Yeah, I think that is important though. I mean, people can get, especially in business or in just any place, we just take ourselves so serious. And again, it's like, oh my God. And then we go into this anxious mindset of I messed up or I said that wrong thing and I looked stupid and no one's gonna take me serious because I messed that up. Or it's like, yo, like yeah, when you laugh at yourself, it allows others the opportunity to equally laugh. And shit happens, you're like, well, that was dumb. Let's
I found myself doing some stuff and I'll be standing in the middle of the yard just laughing.
Oh
and
yeah. That's
my
why we're
wife looks
friend
out the
chat, because
window
like
and it's
people
like
would get us together in a room and people are like, what are they smoking? Those people are out there laughing at themselves. Like, nope, just enjoying life, applying the whoop principle.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, do that all the time. I think I put something in the fridge the other day that did not belong in the fridge at all. And I just stood there like in my kitchen, just laughing. Like, who does that? Like, who does that? Like, what a weird thing to do. Like, focus, RC, like focus. Like, where is your mind? That doesn't go in the fridge. Oh, and then, you move on. You're like, okay, I need to be focused. I'm obviously not present right now. I'm distracted. Like you laugh, but then you also internalize and discover again, how do we take ownership of the silly thing I just did? And then how do I be resolute in achieving that next time so I don't do dumb stuff like put my phone in the freezer? So let's move on. I do want to hear, we ask everyone this question that's a guest on the FitBridge podcast, what you wish you would have known. Talk to us about a pivotal life lesson that you wish you could time warp back and tell 20-year-old Sean, hey, here's the actual secret. Here's what you think you know, but this is what I actually learned. This is what I wish you would have had known.
So grit and determination isn't always everything. And that sounds crazy because everyone's always talking about you gotta have grit, you've got to be determined. But with a excessive amount of grit and determination, you can lead yourself directly into failure. And I would say, that goes back to aligning and understanding that purpose, right? So grit and determination are phenomenal attributes. They're more people need to have them, but they can also run you down a path that you don't want to go down. And you're so determined and you're willing to put out everything and do anything, you don't realize that it's the wrong path. And I think if I could go back in time, I'd probably say, hey, Sean, like pull back a little bit, take a wrap off and make sure that you're on the right path and then apply it and move forward.
Gotcha. So almost that clarity and why and purpose trumps on prioritization, the grit and determination, because you want to know clearly where you're going, what that plan is, be able to be okay with adapting as that plan develops so that you can apply grit and determination to that path. But you're saying that maybe individuals don't have a clear enough path to apply grit and determination too?
Correct. And it's not that you may not have a clear enough path, but when I look back, I look at, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Now we obviously can learn from our failures
Oh
and
yeah, we don't want to go
successes.
down that. We don't want to go
Right.
down that journey. I don't have enough time on the podcast for us to go story for
Right.
story on the choices we've made.
Exactly. But but grit and determination, it's sort of like trumped as, everyone wants a gritty person. Everyone wants somebody that's determined. And it's important, and they're phenomenal attributes. Just make sure you're applying them in the right way, because you can apply grit, you can apply determination to the wrong path, right? And you can keep running down that path at all cost, basically saying, I'm determined, I see that this is where I need to be. The reality is it's not where you need to be, and it's only going to end in something that is subpar or failure for yourself.
How does one apply grit and determination in the right way? What would those differences look like?
So I think and I keep going back to sort of purpose, right? And clarity, but it really truly is like, understand what that future state is, and then question yourself. Okay, rather than just put my head down and go after it, is it the right thing to be going after? Is there something else that I should be applying that effort to? Because there's always alternatives, and you can't get into this spot where you've presented so many alternatives that you can't make a decision. Right now, you're sort of incapacitated, and there's too many decisions to make. But really looking at, is this the right path? And look, sometimes you're going to get it wrong, right? And your grit and determination may take you down that path, and you may be super successful on that path, but it's the wrong path. And whether that means it ends in failure, it ends in something that isn't something you necessarily want, so be it. But if you can have the foresight to just think through that and say, does this make sense to push down? And just take that wrap off before you put your head down and go full bore ahead.
Yeah, I'm getting this visual as you're speaking. You're saying these words of like, head down and taking path. And maybe we just need to lift our head up a little bit before we look down on the path we're taking, so you can get a slightly bird's eye view. Like, you're not going to go all the way up and get an entire view of the map. So there is still likelihood you could go down the wrong path, because maybe if you picked your head up, you could see down the road a little bit and make a little bit better decision. But yeah, if you're always just head down with the grit and the determination, right? Watching where your feet are going, just like, hey, let's look up. Let's get a different perspective for just a second. And then, okay, that looks good. Okay, let's put our head back down and walk that path and jump over. We couldn't see that there was a river up there, right? But then we're going to adapt. We're going to change the plan. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to go backwards. I think there's a metaphor there too. Sometimes you take the path and it's uncomfortable. You got to take a couple steps back, and that's okay as well. Right. Like you said, wrong path, right idea, right direction. It was west. We're still going west, but that was the wrong west path. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that it ties perfectly into transition, right? Sometimes you do have to take a few steps back. And I think that's a very difficult thing for people to do, especially if you're jumping into something completely new, something that you don't have a history or skill set of experience in. It's really challenging to realize that taking this step back is going to be what catapults you forward. And trying to see, that military members struggle with that a lot at transition as well. You've been in charge of hundreds of individuals, millions and tens of millions of dollars of equipment. And all of a sudden you're taking a step back, or being forced to take a step back, for which looks, below your pay grade, if you will, if you're looking at it from a military member. And I think kind of having that foresight to realize that step back could be, and is likely, what's going to catapult you forward is super important, but it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah,
and
very
that's
uncomfortable. Yeah, it's like
extremely
that
uncomfortable all the time.
slingshot concept, right? You got to be pulled back, and sometimes the further you get pulled back actually allows you to catapult forward more. Yeah. I'm thinking as well, do you feel like how does comparison syndrome play in with changing and adapting? We spoke about imposter syndrome, but I'm sure comparison is a real thing. Again, with the climate of the world, all of these things that we have available at our fingertips, we're always seeing other people and other things. And it's like, oh, I should know better. I should be at a different place in my career, right? What would you say to those whom are struggling with the comparison mindset?
That's a great question. So I think in today's world, it's so easy to compare ourselves against everyone else. And we have plenty of platforms that help us do that without thinking, which can be really bad. And I guess I would go back to the idea of laugh at yourself, make mistakes, right? Yes, there's a million different things that we could be doing, but what should we be doing? Where should we be at? Whether that's what somebody else thinks we should be doing or not. Have clarity in the fact that you're doing what you believe you should be doing. And really don't care what other people think. I think in today's world, we're way too obsessed with and worried with what does somebody else think. And we're fed that from a constant stream, if you will. So I think it's important to just completely unattach yourself and say, I really don't care what somebody thinks right now. I'm going to do this, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah, allow yourself the grace to be able to do that and say that. And I know you spoke about, being open-minded, of course, and taking feedback and being receptive to those opinions and, selecting what applies and what you do. Like, we need to hear it, but at the end of the day, it's our own individual decisions on how much that opinion or idea matters, because we are the authors of our own journey. So thanks for the feedback. Not going to take that one, right? We can take and choose what we'd like. We don't have to absorb and apply every single thought and opinion and direction that others, or that we see out that just, hit us, right? We can put that shield up and block a little bit, like, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, really, really neat. Really neat. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for what you're doing again in the space, and allowing these opportunities specifically for our, military personnel. Again, we love having them in our health clubs in all of the positions that they're filling in each department. So thank you for that, and all you do, and for the incredible wisdom you brought today. I love this conversation. So I know we'll chat again.
Thanks so much, RC. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed something from today's conversation, let us know by giving this episode a like, chatting in the comments, and sharing it with your friends. We always love to hear from you, so you can send email messages to podcast@fibr.fit and connect with us on Instagram @FitBridgePodcast for even more exclusive content. Special thanks to our friends at Winner Productions for all things audio and post edits. And on behalf of the entire staff here at FIBR, it's been my absolute pleasure helping bridge community to opportunity.